I'd like first to introduce a bit myself. Okay, I am a research director at CNRS. Okay, and I am the director of an international research lab that has been established in Singapore by 5 partners. So CNRS on the French side, Université Côte d'Azur, Nice, Sorbonne University in Paris, and in Singapore, National University of Singapore in US, and Nanyang Technological University, NTU. Okay? So most of my activities, in fact, is running this lab and organizing, collaboration between France and Singapore. Now, as an individual researcher, I'm doing quantum physics myself. I'm not working on foundations of quantum physics. I use the tools of quantum physics to analyze a certain number of phenomena. Okay. If I have to just highlight one of my research, that would be what we call quantum transport, that is to say how a quantum wave propagates in a random environment. There are 2 sides to this question. As an individual researcher, I'm doing curiosity-driven, blue-sky research, fundamental research, in fact. Okay? So when I try to tackle or analyze a problem, a physics problem, I don't have in mind any possible applications. But now I am also the director of this international research lab, MATRU-Lab, and I need to be aware of the potential applications of the research that we do. Okay? And for example, in Singapore, there are 3 main pillars in what we call quantum engineering. It is quantum computers, quantum communication, and quantum sensing. The word quantum is here to just signal that we are trying to use the specificity of quantum physics, like wave nature, entanglement, to improve the capabilities of sensors. Oh yes, we do. In MATRU-Lab, we have quantum computer scientists working on quantum computers. We have also physicists doing quantum information and so on. But you have to fully appreciate that building up a quantum computer is in the hands of big companies. And this is because you face tough engineering problems. And these companies have large funding. They can gather large crowds of engineers. They can even hire good scientists, okay? And we cannot compete. So we are not, for example, ourselves building up a quantum computer, but what we can do is work around for some theoretical investigation or even some experimental investigation, proof of concepts, so accompanying the development of a quantum computer. But certainly a quantum computer will be realized by a private company. Obviously, yes, and this is the living purpose of an international research lab. For CNRS, an IRL is the ultimate international partnering tool. It is a legal entity designed to establish strategic collaboration with a long-term perspective. So in Singapore, we are collaborating with NUS, and in NUS, the Center for Quantum Technologies and the Physics Department and the School of Computing. And in NTU, with the School of Physical and Mathematical Sciences, and also with the School of Material Science and Engineering. We have also, individual researchers working at ELNUS or at SUTD. And in France, we have the Université Côte d'Azur, so different labs. Okay, we have essentially the historical partner was the Laboratoire Infini, and in Sorbonne University it was the Laboratoire Kastler-Brossel. But as I said, CNRS is a national institution, so we can collaborate with any universities or labs in France, in fact. Oh, they are happening right now. Many years ago, the second quantum revolution started when scientists realized that they can make practical use of the most intriguing feature of quantum physics, entanglement. And this is how the concept of a quantum computer came out. So a quantum computer is a computer, but instead of using these classical bits, it uses quantum bits, qubits. I don't have time to explain what are qubits exactly, but you have to know that companies like IBM, just produced the first prototypes of a quantum computer. So now you can see that all developed countries, they have their own big program on quantum technologies. The European Union, each country in the European Union, in Singapore also. For example, the National Research Foundation, they have started a version 2 of their quantum engineering program, focusing on some pillars, of course, having in mind applications, deliverable products. I mentioned them before: quantum communication, quantum sensing, quantum computers, and also quantum foundry. So you see, everything is happening right now and the people are rushing. There is another revolution coming up. It's machine learning. So people are now using machine learning and deep learning techniques in quantum physics. So we are living an exciting moment right now, and there is an effervescence everywhere in the labs doing quantum technologies. Okay, maybe just let me start with a timeline of the collaboration that led to MajuLab. Okay, in my case, it was a case of being the right person at the right place at the right moment. So there is an element of luck. Okay, so it turns out that I was visiting NUS back in 2005, 2006, and it is when the National Research Foundation started their program for Research Center of Excellence, and they launched the first call. And people here at the NUS were preparing a project that ultimately led to the Center for Quantum Technologies. So since I was around and seeing all the project building up, I proposed that we could have a collaboration with CNRS. Okay, and everything went smooth. Okay, the people agreed. And back in 2008, we started officially. And we started with what we call an international associated lab, which is not a legal entity, but it was formalizing at the institutional level a collaboration between France and Singapore. Later, we created the IRL MajuLab. Okay, so there was a first term and a second term. Now we are 2 years before the end of the second term, and I hope there will be a third term. So now, as I said, having an IRL opens an institutional pipe between the two countries for strategic reasons. Okay, so it means that the scientific partners, universities and CNRS, are ready to put funding and manpower in the operation with a long-term perspective, and this is uniquely great. Okay, because of course, if you want to develop strategic collaboration, you need to be present full-time, long enough to fully develop your collaboration and your results. As soon as the link is strongly established, you can come back to your France, okay, to your university, or CNRS lab, to your own lab, and continue the collaboration. And my job as a director is then to replenish the collaboration. So I need to find some other people to come and do the same. So yes, it's uniquely great to have an international research lab. Headhunting the right researchers. And what I mean by this is, obviously, we need to have, very good scientists. This is because of the image and visibility of the French partners, okay? With the right skills depending on the type of topics we want to develop. But this is not enough. We also need to have, researchers with the right mindset. That is to say, a pioneering spirit, people willing to develop collaboration with the local researchers, develop networks, be very dynamic people. Even within this list, I would say, you have to convince the people to come because they have personal or even, institutional constraints. They have an academic career, they have a family, and so on. And this is not easy to convince them, even if the CNRS is proposing an expatriation package. So this is the biggest challenge to me. And right now, I am working on the next mandate, and I have to identify the next generation of researchers willing to come to Singapore. Again, there are two sides to this question. So, as a researcher, I don't feel much difference with France. Okay, it's very easy to contact and meet the people, start discussions and collaboration, just like in France. In fact, maybe there is a difference is the number of PhDs and postdocs that the people have here compared to France. Okay, so generally a collaboration is going through students, postdocs. So here it's smoother. Now, as a director in Singapore, this is a small world, so you are closer to decision makers. So if you want to discuss a project, you just can easily meet these guys, and if you have a green light, a go, well, everything flows smooth again. Okay? In France, it's more difficult. I have more the impression to be stratified, and it's not always easy to get the decision in time. So here it's more dynamic, more immediate, I would say. Oh, it affected it a lot, okay? Simply because during the lockdown, people, be it in France or in Singapore, they had to take care of many other things, okay? Having their children at home, taking care of homeschooling, so it was difficult. So of course we try to organize ourselves, organizing online seminars, Zoom meetings and so on, but the amount of work that was achieved was not the same. Okay? So now, of course, the lockdown is over, so we are going back to work again, but there are still social distancing measures, office occupancy measures, and it's not back to normal, I would say. Okay, maybe I would like to say how an IRL is working, in fact. Okay, so essentially an IRL is a contract between the partners. So we sign a convention, and so there are legal articles about intellectual property and so on, but I will concentrate on the scientific program. You start with a scientific program and with people involved in this program. Okay? And for a certain number of years. For the first mandate, it was 4 years for us. So at the end, it was back in 2017, we had a review by an international expert panel of the unit, and everything went well since the institutions, the signing partners, decided to renew Majula for a second term. Okay? So we had a new scientific program, new people involved. And the mandate is 5 years. So right now we are in the middle. Okay? So I'm left with 2 years, and I need to prepare the next mandate, meaning I have to find a new director. I won't be the next director. We need to discuss with the partner to find out which directions to come, which projects to strengthen, which ones to drop. And once agreed, we need to find the people willing to come and work on these projects.